Hey, Daniel here, 619IT, San Diego's leading managed service provider and cybersecurity experts. Today, I want to talk about a topic we regularly get questions about: hard drives, solid-state drives, NVMe's. When, why do we care? What are the differences? Let's get into it. So, we, for the longest time, have used hard drives like these. There's literally something that kind of looks like a CD in there. In a later video, I might be able to take one of these apart and show you guys. And it spins. It's a mechanical drive. It's got a little record arm that moves and reads the data. And we can get data off of there about as fast as that record arm could get to the data. So there's a seek time involved. Physically, like, the drive has to move, just like the record. We skipped CDs back in the day for the millennials like myself. We had to wait for that reader to move to get to the next track. It wasn't just instant like an iPod. So the mechanical, there's some delays, there's some speed inconsistencies in there. And then this thing up here is how it connects to the computer. This little guy right here is power, and that's the SATA port. The SATA port on these drives has a maximum of 500 megabytes per second. That's how fast you can get data off here. If it's all lined up on that little CD inside, a little disk inside, if it's all lined up perfectly, and everything's maxed out, you can do it at 500. In reality, all that seek time, all the looking and all that fun stuff, these mechanical spinning disk drives that all of our computers had 5 years ago, they maxed out at about 100 megabytes per second, which sounds like a lot, but really isn't that fast. When you're streaming, Netflix, it's like 5 to 15 megabytes per second. So when you're turning on your computer, it's searching for files all over. It's taken a lot of searching and seeking different files to turn the whole thing on. These drives make computers feel slow, and they degrade over time. They start out at about 100, and then as they get 3 to 5 years of life, they'll eventually slow down to about 60, 80, and that's when they're running nicely and they start getting full. These, again, takeaway here, 100 megabytes per second. I don't have one in front of me today, but the same port, they said, fine, let's put kind of those SD cards type memory that we have in our digital cameras. They said, let's make a drive with those, with no moving parts. And that actually was a huge step. That turned your spinning disk drive into a solid-state drive. And that was a huge upgrade for companies or clients that were going from these. They could upgrade to those. And then the bottleneck was not the spinning disk drive. The bottleneck was the port. So we started making 200, 400, and eventually we got to 550 megabyte per second SATA port speed drives, and they couldn't go any faster. Not because the drive couldn't go faster, but because we were using a port that they designed 20 years ago that said, oh, what's the fastest a spinning hard drive will go? It could do 100. All right, let's give it 500 of bandwidth. So we ran out of space on how fast they could go. So to reimagine new computers, they had to do away with this whole form factor. So there's no longer an upgrade path of you take the spinner and you put in an SSD. They had to reimagine everything from scratch. And when we did that, we came up with this whole brand new thing that I liken to a stick of gum. So this is called an NVMe, or non-volatile memory expansion. So remember, we had that 100, we had that 500. This, when these came out, went 2,000. And it wasn't 2,000 because that was the bus. The limiting factor wasn't here anymore. The limiting factor was that's as fast as those chips could go. So we had a really nice, huge bump when we went to NVMe. We went from that 500 to 2,000. But again, we had to get a whole new computer to run these types of things. These weren't drop-in upgrades on our old computers. So if you bought a computer in the last, I'd say 3 years, and you spent $1,000 or so or more dollars, I give it 90% chance it has one of these types of drive in it. And these are amazing. So these are M2 or NVMe drives. And like I said, they're about the size of a stick of gum, a few inches wide. And they actually come in different sizes. So here's another NVMe drive these are both 256 gigs, but this one's like the size of a postage stamp. There's not much to it, but they have the same connector, same thing. They both go about 2,000. So as we fast forwarded and we said, okay, 2,000 is pretty cool. How can we make them faster? They've just been leapfrogging. The next barrier was 7,000. We got to 7,000. I think that was PCIe 3. Now I'm getting a little technical. And they recently came out with like PCIe 4 or 5. and now they can go like 14,000. There's only a couple drives that do that now on the market, and that's like bleeding edge if you need something with crazy, they call IOPS, or input output per second. Most people don't need that. Really, the 2000 drive really makes the biggest difference. When you turn on that computer, Windows boots or Mac OS boots within what feels like less than 10 seconds, where it used to be a minute even on an SSD, or 2 or 3 minutes on a mechanical drive. So these are the things I get the most excited about when we actually see real technology changes in a computer. It's not just, oh, we went from 2 gigahertz to 2.1 gigahertz. Great, I don't need to go tell my clients to buy a new computer because we're 5% faster on the CPU. That's nothing that gets me excited. This type of stuff gets me excited. So if you have a computer with mechanical disk drive, it's in your interest to go look for and make sure when you buy it. And you can still buy computers with these. That's one of the things you got to look out for. When you're buying a computer, let's say home grade computer from Best Buy or Costco, and it's that $500 or less price point, there is a chance still today that they might be including something like this, because this is still very low cost to produce. These are cheap too now. You just have to make sure you're looking for the right thing. So those are the types of things we like to help our clients with, understanding the difference, solid state, spinner, M2, NVMe, and which one and what they need. So for clients that need some AI workloads or video editing, we'll want to make sure they're on the newest, latest, and greatest of things like that. For most desktop stuff, you can get away with something like this. Dell, Apple, they're all doing a good job. HP, including the new tech, you just have to know to look for it. So thank you. Give us a ring if you need any help, have any questions. Daniel, 619IT, we're here to help.